Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for today, September already 5th, 2023. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Abram Pilch, joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder, and our very special guest, Jorvon Moss, otherwise known online as Odd J, who is a huge star in the maker community. So we're so excited to have him on to talk to us about his latest companion robots, his Cyberdeck. He makes the coolest stuff. I think our guest last week name checked you. Was that our last week guest who said, "Who does he follow?" And he said, "Oh yes, I follow Odd J. That's who I look. Whose work I follow to see who's doing really cool stuff." So,
I didn't see the last episode.
Right. So anyway, so what is new with you? I understand that you've got an amazing looking robot that's sitting in front of you. What is that project?
This is Marvin. Marvin is my first really AI robot. I'm using a lot of facial recognition using microcontrollers, but this one's using a Raspberry Pi. I wanted to have my own basic like Alexa, the Google thing, but my own design.
Hello world.
So it has basic speech recognition. And when I turn on that program, looking for the servo button. There's a button here for the servos. I keep it off because it sometimes gets wily and moves a bit with too much torque. Where is that switch? Where's your switch? I Gucci with the switch. I don't know where I can find it now. But it is somewhere around. Oh, there it is. So the switch comes on, then there's a facial recognition. It'll start looking for faces, and then once it sees it, it'll stare for a minute and follow. But this has been my next big project. It was supposed to be a wearable, but it got too big to be a wearable. So now it just has this handle that I can like pick up and then like treat like a child, just carry it around. But I'm hoping I'm gonna do something with this later. I may build it a body in the future, and we may go into those things. But it's been one of my most hardest projects over like the last few years. I didn't know how hard it was to make an AI system until I started playing with this, and I have learned a lot, and have learned it is very difficult to do so. Oh, okay, seeing me through the camera, cool.
Abram, muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. So what is so what type of so you're using a Raspberry Pi 4 in there?
Yep.
Are you using some type of a TPU accelerator, or is it just using the standard 4 SoC?
I'm using just the standard 4. I have a whole bunch of fans on top here. I'm not sure if you can see that design. I have fans to help the cooling parts of it and stuff to keep everything cool. For the eyes, using a hyperpixel, which ironically I'm also using for my Cyberdeck, but we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, it was just a fun project, honestly. I'm still working on it. I still have to make the AI smarter. I have 2 programs that one that I can run that will just talk. The other one is a little bit more difficult for the fact that it is an actual like AI, and I've noticed that it's using ChatGPT 4, I believe, or new ChatGPT, and it's not the most brightest of systems. Like I'll ask it like what the data is, and since it's not technically connected to any overly thing, it'll get really sassy with me and be like, "I do not know. You can check your computer or your cell phone for the answer." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. That's an error I have to fix." But it's fine. It's fine. It's been fun. It's a fun little guy. It's nice.
An impressive build, I have to say.
Yeah.
I'm getting vibes of 1980s, 1990s sci-fi shows and movies from the design aesthetic. You know, I'm seeing Ed 209 in that right now.
I tried. It's mostly in the back. The back is pretty crazy with all the wires and stuff. But like,
wow.
I did very much hard to kind of go for like a NASA punk level aesthetic. So I did a lot of like looking up, looking up how old robots looked and stuff. There were definitely a whole bunch of different things. I made sure to like, let me drop the circles really quickly. I made sure to add stickers.
I noticed those. Those are really nice.
Yeah, it definitely brings it out. I kind of want to like detail it more later and add some more smudging and more like in use type of designs to it. Because originally it's based off of a thermal imaging system, so I saw one at open source and it looked super cool. But in my head, all I saw was a robot face.
Really nice. And yeah, with some weathering, it'll look, as if it's a real lived-in universe piece of kit that's been around for decades.
Yeah, that's definitely why I really wanted to get the aesthetic to it. It does have its like goods and bads though. I'm using the person sensor with the Pi Pico to actually do all the servo movement and stuff. But the problem I have with it sometimes is it sometimes gets stuck after seeing a person.
Yeah.
It'll just stare at them, and I'll be like, "Hey, are you still working?" And it'll just be like, "Stare." Like, all right, that's not creepy at all, and won't bring us in trouble later.
No, never. So you've got a Pico and a Pi in there?
Yeah.
Wow. So how are they talking to each other? Is it a serial connection over USB, or is it something else?
It's something else. I have the Pi Pico with a robotics controller talking to the person sensor, which is in wrong eye. Is in that eye. Those are talking to each other thanks to a robotics board, and then I have the Pi is like right here in the middle. Like the fun part of design is the Pi is definitely the heart of the program, but that's for more of the talking stuff. So like, hello. It can do stuff like that. I can make it talk if I want to, or I can make it do its own thing. It can tell bad jokes, things like that. So you also have that up. Bad joke. That's not what I wanted it to do, but okay, that's fine. It's still very much a work in progress. Luckily, I have a lot of time to continuously work on it.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I do will admit for the design, because I did this by accident, a lot of the here I'll show you guys in the back. A lot of the brain is this right here. It's this cover, then the Raspberry Pi is above this. Right there in the middle is actually where the speaker is. I'm not sure you can kind of see it. It's where the speaker is.
Oh yeah.
Fun fact of the design is all of this is removable. Like if I just unplugged everything, I could yank this entire part out, and the case will still be there. So like I have this entire square area being like an actual brain that I can rip out. Which was totally by accident, but at the same time, it felt really cool to just yank this out and be like, "Oh, now I have your brain."
Are the eyebrows supposed to go up and down?
Yeah, I probably forgot to charge the battery, so like they're not really reacting the way they're supposed to. And I can tell they're not because the servos are getting stuck, but that's just because it's currently running on low power, which is my fault, honestly. I should have charged it last night. Oh, there we go.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. So, why does it have 3 cameras? Does it need all 3, or is that just for aesthetic reasons?
That's because it's my child, and I have 3 eyes. So, like,
oh.
So when people say like your kid has your eyes, I can be like, yeah, it has my eye. So that was just a joke I decided to make. Plus, it makes it look a lot cooler.
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Yeah.
So is only one of them actually being used for the facial recognition, or is it using all 3?
One right here.
Oh, so it's not even using those. Oh, very cool. So how did you make the body? Is it like mostly 3D printed, or did you take pieces from cut something up?
Literally all 3D printed. It took a very long time. The head by itself, just this part, took me 37 hours on the print.
Wow.
Everything else took a long time. I did a whole bunch of sanding and resin covering to make it look all nice and neat. The body is a whole bunch of different things. Like it's still 3D printed, but like these are just badges I had got from different cons.
Right.
And then like some other stuff I had lying around, I added to it, add aesthetics. So, like, of course, I had to add the Raspberry Pi little sticker. People know that it's all a Pi powered robot. But I was going for more of a simple, like easy to carry around design that I can easily just pick up and then like carry around over my shoulder, and it won't like fall apart when I pick it up.
Wow. So it's plugged in now, but does it have a battery?
I am working on it. I'm going to have this power bank. This power bank is going to be the battery. I have my friend help me pick it out. It should be able to make the high power for about 5 hours before dying. But since this is not really much of a wearable, I could, attach it on here somewhere, probably on the back with the piping here. Right. But we'll see when it gets to that point. Because honestly, at this point, I think it'd be better if it just stays as one in place and be a cool like centerpiece. But if I ever go further into it and make it into a cool like backpack sci-fi thing, I think I will go with that later when I have some time to actually make it. And then I add the battery pack to it, and then we'll do it that way. But there's multiple different ways. I have different ideas I have for this. This is just the main thing I wanted to have finished first. Like, I love this. Like, I can make it go crazy and everything. It's great.
It's a nice, sizable project. It's something that you want to interact with. You don't feel scared or frightened for picking it up and actually using it.
That's kind of one of the things I've like learned over especially this past year with like I've made so many different robots that like I still keep a lot of them, of course, but some of them will break during the event or something along those lines. So I'm really focusing this year, especially, to make my robots a lot more easygoing, so I can easily pick them up, take them somewhere, and also for them to keep working even afterwards. So I'll be upgrading it, but not making it to a point where it can't work anymore. Like that's for awesome. This one, if when I start working on the upgrades for this one, I don't plan to mess with this at all. Like I will start over from the beginning, from the ground up, and make a new robot.
How does it do the text to speech? Does it is there a particular library or voice you use for that?
There's a whole bunch of different ones. Hold on, I'm going to turn you off. Your servo's off because you're moving too much and you're making me nervous. You're making Papa nervous. There's a whole bunch of like libraries, of course, online. I use a whole bunch of different stuff that for Raspberry Pi. So like the one where it's talking, where I make it talk, I use eSpeak, and I have a whole bunch of different like stuff that I already programmed it for it to casually say. So all I have to do is like scroll up a bit until I find what sentence I want it to say. For the AI talking stuff, I use a version of DaVinci and have it connect to GPT for the conversation part. I am working on another one I'm trying to add to this, but that's later. And that one's going to be using one of my friend's AI codes. It's called like a friendship bot, and it's able to like have basic conversations with you. I've been trying to get that to work. It's been using some of the Microsoft stuff instead of the ChatGPT stuff. But it's been taking forever because this thing is really huge and takes up most of my desk. So I've actually made an area for it on my desk by itself, which brings me into my Cyberdeck build. Which looks super cool, very much.
Oh, I love it.
That is nice. The round screen just, is icing on the cake. That's nice.
Yeah. I designed it to actually help me with this project because a lot of the Raspberry Pi stuff, even the Raspberry Pi 4 is more stronger. This is a Raspberry Pi 3, but it's strong enough to get the basics done. So I wanted to make like a little test thing that I can carry around when I'm like out and where I do something, because sometimes recently I like to leave my lab and go to my little favorite coffee shop, and I like to work there. But since I don't want to bring this with me because a lot of people stare and they interrupt, so I'm like, I'm trying to work right now, and they're just like, "Oh, what's that?" I'm like, "Okay, you're too big to carry around to those situations because people like you too much." So I decided to build a Cyberdeck because then I can test the software that I want to use for this on this. So it's like small, portable, and this looks super cool. Plus, it technically, if I add a small speaker to it, which I plan to do later, it can work the same AI system as this guy here.
That's awesome.
It's like a mini version of it.
So is the AI in the cloud then, or is it local?
It's local and in the cloud. Like I have to technically in the cloud, but the program itself to activate the AI mode, as I'm calling it right now, that part is technically offline. So I have to like type it in first and then hit enter, and then it takes 4 minutes to connect to the cloud, and then it'll start talking and being like, "Hello."
Yeah.
But the cloud stuff actually does help a lot because the fact that like you can actually ask it like common questions that are happening now, like, "Hey, what's happening at like this time in this area?" And they'll like check the news for me, and I could be lazy about it.
Yeah, no question. You also, to do a large language model, you'd probably need a lot more performance than a Raspberry Pi 4 could do if you were going to run it locally.
Yeah, I really want to make an offline AI later. That way I don't have to worry about being connected to the cloud all the time. Luckily, for most events, they have Wi-Fi, so there shouldn't be a problem with this because the screen itself is actually the desktop. So I could easily just mess with it and like, switch up to the AI and stuff like that and get it to work. but it's mostly just more work for helping my robotic stuff get better.
So
Yeah.
that keyboard that's like a BlackBerry keyboard, right?
Yeah, hold on. Actually, because I took notes. Where did I put my notebook? Ah, it's
Is it
over there.
the solder party one?
Ah, notebook. Okay.
Hey.
Let's see. It was on page. Here we go. It's the B. I have a whole page. I designed it first before actually building it. It's actually this keyboard here. It's the BBQ220 keyboard. They
Right.
have them on Pinroni, of course. It's a really good board.
Yeah.
I had ordered one a long time ago. I'm not sure if they're sold out or not because I remember seeing it and I thought it was amazing. So as soon as I was able to order one, I ordered one. And it works really well, honestly. It definitely gives the
Yeah.
whole thing character, and like I kind of figured out exactly how I wanted it all to go for my sketches and my designs originally.
Nice.
It's because I thought it'd be the easiest way to put it together. So after that, of course, I like catted it all up and did the rest.
That's great. Did you connect it via USB or I2C?
It's using I2C, I believe.
Yeah. That's a preferred way. It saves you a USB port further along down the line should you need it.
Yeah, I usually don't have many problems with using USB ports.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fair
you can
enough.
also extender and be like, hey, let me just make more little ports. But
Yeah.
for these type of projects, I really don't need more Pi power than I already currently have.
So are you able, when you use that for your work, are you working on the like Pi desktop, or are you working at the command prompt? Like how are you working on it?
I use Pi desktop if I need visual. Other than that, thanks to me using Pi a lot, I can now work through SSH, and then I kind of like
Yeah.
look at the code now. I finally got to that point where I can just look at code and understand it. Um, the issue with that is coding is hard. It is not my favorite subject. It takes me days upon days to get anything to work. I understand why they pay developers so much because if I had to do this daily, I would be sobbing. I would not be okay. If I had to go to work to this every day and then spend an entire 8 to 10 hours still get nowhere, I would break down every day.
Yeah,
That's a
no
fair
question.
point.
It could be very frustrating. So you're doing it all at the command prompt on that screen. And how does it render on a circular screen? Is that like hard to look at?
Not really. When I if you SSH into it, of course, it's not around screen on your computer. But like for this, everything kind of looks normal. I think you can't really tell because the camera like blurring things out, but like you can kind of see it a little bit. Like you can see the top board up there and stuff as a
Right.
touchscreen, so touching stuff, and like it'll turn on and turn whatever you want to see. Like right now, it's showing like all the. Darn it! It won't. Come on, camera! You can do it. I believe in you. A little bit. You can see it a little bit. It's like
Right.
my documents and stuff, which it's fine. It doesn't really mess up anything, and it looks super cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean that's fantastic. Did you draw the eyeball?
No, the eyeball was actually a reference from Portal. Portal.
Oh, yes, supposed to look like GLaDOS, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did another version of it before, and I didn't really like it. Originally, I was gonna have it play a GIF over and over again that says emotional support robot, which was cool, but it didn't give it much personality. And I noticed that. So like with the eyeball, it gives it a lot more personality. People see it and then they are instantly drawn to it because humans and eyes. It's a whole psychological thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No question about it.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I
That
liked it.
is that is amazing. So is the end goal of this, is it supposed to be to talk to you and to recognize faces?
Yeah, well, the recognized faces is the easy part because I've done that a few times, especially the last year. I think last year my main robots were all facial recognition robots. So I've gotten to that. So this year is all about voice. um, so it can follow people and look at them perfectly fine. They'll track them and stuff like that. I do want to get the movement a bit smoother in the future, but right now I'm on a time limit, so I haven't been able to sit down and do that. I was like, oh, it works. Cool. Next part. Um, but my main goal for it at the end is I wanted to be an actual like companion robot. Like I want to be able to make my robots able to talk to people and then just start up random conversations. So like if I, for example, leave it alone for a while and it's still on, it'll just start asking me like, "How are you feeling?" or like, "How was your day?" or like, "Did you know?" Random fact of the day. So kind of like having another person in the room with you. Unless you turn it off, off buttons for when you want to do that. I do want to upgrade with a data set later because I also want to see if I could use it to track people's health, like mental health, depending on what's going on. I want to make a data set depending on like how you're doing and stuff, and then maybe let's say hypothetically, you have a headband that's giving you data and it's reading the data, and for some reason, the data says that you're depressed or whatever, and then it'll just crack a bad joke.
Oh, that's
But
interesting.
that's going to take a lot of time, and that will happen after all the events are done for the year. So after November, I can sit down and start customizing and designing stuff before I can start delivering data sets. That way I can start programming based on data sets.
Can it tell one person from another? Like, can you have it detect one face? Is it just detect any face, or can it tell one person from another?
It can't tell one person from the other. It's not that advanced. I mean, I could if I use the Raspberry Pi itself as the whole camera thing. But I didn't want to do that because then I have to make another hole and I got to figure out how to like get the camera into this eyeball, and it's a whole thing. But what it does is that it knows faces because of face, eyes and stuff like that, mouth, nose. It needs to see all of this for it knows it's a face. If it just sees this, it won't know it's a face. So if people wearing masks, they're invisible. That's fine. But what it ends up doing is that it sees the biggest head. So ironically, if you're in a group of people and whoever's closer, whoever has the biggest head is going to focus on that person.
That makes sense.
So if you ever want to judge a person and say who of your friends has the biggest head, you just need one of these, and whoever it looks at, you got the biggest head.
Well, that could be another. You could market it as a big head detector, right? you just
that would be some interesting marketing, but
I mean, you can make a mini version, just carry around, But that is so cool. I really love the aesthetic of it. The like the blinking lights look like an old old time computer, like something you see on a control console at Star Trek or something. So, what did you use for the grid, for the light grid?
These were all little things that were given to me. So like I go to a whole bunch of events, and like events people have like LED pins and stuff. So I have like an entire like box of just LED pins. Why are you looking up? Oh, because the thing's up there. No, stop looking up. It's funny because what I have to do is cover this eye, and then it'll be like, oh, there's nothing over there. Let me look at somewhere else. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
Okay. Oh, so the LED. So how you made the LED matrix?
Yeah. I have a whole like little thing of like LEDs that I just keep around. So like sometimes I have friends who like make LED badges or LED stuff, and if they have an extra one, they'll give it to me, and I'll just save it and I just attach it to it because it's an easy way to like bring attention to your robot and stuff without having to add a lot of things to it.
Right. Yeah.
A good example is one of the things I have. See from over here. I got this from Deborah, aka Geek Mom. She makes a whole bunch of these LED things. This is like a little LED eye thing, which I just don't have a battery for right now. But I keep a whole bunch of these little things around constantly, and like if I don't wear them or turn them something else like that, they're perfect like little add-ons to your robot. Plus, like they have their own power source, so you can turn them on and off at will. So if something were to happen where like the servos stop moving or whatever, you'll still see this really creepy LED eye, and this like LEDs are going down here.
Oh, neat.
It's a plan.
That's a great idea.
So you have robots that you wear on your shoulder, and you said you might wear this as a backpack. Have you ever done like a necklace one that you wear around your neck?
No, I'm writing a thing right now about wearable robots because I think I've made the most out of that, and I have learned a lot from it. So a lot of things go into making a wearable robot other than just making it look pretty. You also have to think about weight, design, how you're going to wear it, where you're going to wear it, and that type of thing. My last robot that was wearable, which you guys saw on the display for this with my face on it, was fur, which he hooked onto my hoodie, which was really good and all, and he looks amazing. The problem with fur was that I wore fur for all 3 days during SuperCon, which it did work perfectly. It was great. But by day 3, I had a huge bruise on my shoulder, like a really nasty, like purple, like bruise right here. from it just being on me all day. And I had friends, Alex, Glow, and Angela, being examples, who had robots that were just passing around like babies, like, here, hold it. And I was like, I can't do that because mine's attached to me. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So that's why I've been working on more robots that are stacking away from me. That way, if I do find a way to wear them and I get tired of wearing them, I can like take them off and they can still be a part of the event without me having to be there.
Makes sense.
Kevin asks, what's your go-to board for robot building?
I don't have a go-to board. It depends on the project and what I have at hand. So like my favorite boards, of course, are Arduino Nanos are my first one that I used. I used to go to when I first started because they were small enough, and depending on how big the robot is, it's something you have to think about. Recently, I've kind of fallen for the Pi Pico. Like, I can give you guys a little sneak peek, this is the robot I'm working on over here. Let me just put the head back on. Oh no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm taking the head off. I'm using a Pi Pico for this one. And everyone's talking to the person sensor, which is giving me my facial recognition. So this is another little robot that I'm working on, which will actually be worn on my shoulder. And it's using the Pi Pico, but it's currently still being made pretty. I still got some design work to do on it. But it works pretty well too.
Oh, that's lovely.
So this one will actually be able to be worn because it's super light compared to its sibling. But I'm working on some of the cover-ups here. Like I got stuff here I'm trying to cover up and things like that. So a lot of artwork is going into it, but the functionality is definitely Pi Pico. It's been kind of my current favorite because I've been able to do a lot with it. I also enjoy the C Studio boards for small like LED stuff. I like all the boards. Okay, give me everything. It depends on how complicated you want to get. Depends on which board you probably should use. Like if it's like something really quick that just needs to be done, I would probably go with like a Pi Pico or Arduino board because I can get those done without a problem. And if it's something bigger and harder that needs a lot more computer power, I would probably say a Raspberry Pi. Go play with that. If you need anything that's going to be talking to something or an AI or something like that, a Raspberry Pi board. And then if it's something like you're just starting off, I would like maybe get something with like Circle Python, like a Gemma or something like that. I'm a big fan of Adafruit Feathers as well. Those are really good, especially for props and things that you want to like work in that area. Man, I can go on and on. I love them all.
Yeah. No question. Well, that just all looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So where can folks see your work next? You said you're doing 2 more cons this year.
Yeah, I'm doing Rome Maker Faire, and it looks like I'm doing SuperCon as well for my next 2 events. So you'll definitely see at least this guy for sure there, and most likely this new guy as well once I finally get that together. I got some cool stuff. Some friends helped me made. I got a custom back that I can actually wear the robot on, which is very comfy. So I'll definitely be at those 2 events for a fact. If you want to follow me on my socials, I am more alive right now on Instagram because we all know what happened to Twitter. So I post stuff to Twitter here and there, but I'm not really like checking my messages or things like that like I used to be. Yeah. And then of course I'm on TikTok as well, but I'm rarely on there. TikTok for me is just more like, here, I built this cool thing, enjoy it.
Yeah, it's very short form. No question about it.
Yeah, it's not really. So mostly Instagram because I do post on my stories a lot. I do enjoy interacting with people during my stories. I'll ask them questions, or I'll ask them to ask me questions, and I share stuff from there. I have people message me about certain things, and I'll answer them like, "Hey, what board are you using?" or "Hey, what is this using?" I do all of that mostly through on my Instagram right now.
Fantastic. So, Les, what is new? What is new with you this week?
Well, this week I've got a new board to play with, so I'm going to go to our camera and give you a quick peek at it. So here we have the Zima blade, just there. Now this is, I've got some props here for scale reference. We've got a Pi, obviously. We need a Pi for scale reference, so there we go. That's what it is. And I've also got an audio cassette because this casing just reminds me so much of a 1980s audio cassette. And it also makes me feel incredibly old. But inside, it's an Intel x86 SBC, 8 gig of RAM in this one, but the RAM is upgradable. It's a SODIMM, basically, a DDR3L SODIMM, if I remember right. So you can take the RAM out, put 16 gig in, and away you go. We've got more RAM. We can also plug in bits and pieces. So I've got plugged in right now. So unplug that. our PCIe slot, I've got a NVMe hard drive, which also has SATA connections as well. So I've got M.2 SATA there, and I've got SATA connection here. This comes with SATA as well. So 2 SATA ports, USB 3, mini display port, all the good stuff. So let's go to the main page. You can see what I'm talking about. So yeah, quad-core processor, up to 16 gig of RAM, gigabit Ethernet, and it's an SBC, but don't think of it as a Raspberry Pi. You're not going to be making robots out of this and plugging in GPIO stuff. This is more your own personal cloud at home that has all of your bits and pieces on that you want to store, or it's your games console. You can put it into a miniature arcade and use it for emulation. It's got enough grunt to do that. So there's an exploded view of the piece of kit. So it's got everything that you need to have a really nice experience. So I've been playing around with this today, making my own little cloud server. Having to play around with what you can do with serving media files over a network. And it works pretty well. So connecting up a hard drive was pretty simple. Just plug in this expansion board, which is an extra purchase. Formatting the drive, and away we went. Easy. Plugged in a SATA drive directly into the board and formatted that. Easy again. It's got this lovely web interface, which is on top of a Linux OS. And it just works rather well. So if you don't want to delve into the whole Linux side of things, because for some people it is a bit scary, you don't have to. It's all in a web interface. So this is now on Crowd Supply, so you can purchase this if you wish and make a pledge when it's finally funded and get your own. And it's starting from $64. That's just a bare board you're going to get for that, for the pledge. And bare boards usually come in at about an Intel Celeron with 2.2 gig processor and CPU speed, and gigabit Ethernet graphics. It's 700 megahertz graphics. You're not going to be playing Starfield on this. It will choke straight away, but it will do old school retro gaming pretty well. My guess would be anything up to maybe GameCube or Wii would probably work well on this. It's an x86. Tends to work quite well on that. But it looks like a nice piece of kit, a nice board, and I'm going to do a bit more research and testing into this for the review. So I want to make sure we get it fully tested, because this is something new we've not come across before. We've seen Zima boards before, we've not seen Zima Blade before. So this is something interesting that I want to have a good test and delve into before I make my mark. But good little board.
Wow, great. So we really look forward to learning more about that. Jorvon, would you use an x86 board in any of your projects?
I could. I'm not saying that I can't. I will never say no to parts, because you'd be surprised what comes in handy down the line or at midnight when you just had your midnight snack and realize that it's a cool idea.
A Latte Panda Sigma would be fantastic for your projects, because that's got an x86 12th gen processor in there and an Arduino Leonardo built into it.
Oh, okay. I'll take a look at it. Let me write that down, actually. What was it called again?
Latte Panda Sigma.
Yeah, combination of, I guess, a PC and an Arduino together. I guess you could probably get more AI power out of that than of the Pi, but not a lot more, but a little more. Anyway, that's all the time we have this week, but I really want to thank Jorvon for joining us. It's always such an honor and a pleasure to have you on our show. You're one of the people whose work I admire the most, so it's really a great honor having you on here. And
thank you.
We will be back next week, the 12th, with another special guest, although it'll be hard to top this week's. We will try. And we'll see you all then at 2 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. UK time. Bye, everyone.